Hello, beautiful people, wherever you are. Welcome back. It's underscore back again to the root of today. Here we are. It's one-on-one live coverage, and I've been called a little bit here so as I can just sort out much of the issues that are resolving back to the street. Because I told you that whatever you think about, you're gonna be so perfect somewhere. You're gonna be needing much of the people at the ground, so as we can just subsequently make sure that we are coming to the closest part ever possible. Here we are at the sugarcane plantation, guys. I told you this kind of a zone, it belongs to my asset of my father, and I'm just the person who is just making sure that I'm taking over the game, and to this kind of the fantastic mystic way of making sure that things will be coming to you live, which is one-on-one. Here we go, guys. This kind of a farm here, it's gonna be a very large farm, including much of the trees here. It's a very big forest that's just included here, and a small house that was constructed via no one's intention, no one's acknowledgement with the Condad's area, and I don't know who gave them the accusation. I'll talk about this kind of acknowledgement for them to come out with such kind of a structure and to this kind of an area. Sometimes I tell much of the people things gonna be coming slowly. Right today they have called me because I told you that this kind of the sugarcane, this time now they leased from my father's land, and right now my father is a little bit aged, and they have been squamarizing and hindering his own emotions here and there. So as long as today I've just reached this kind of the brim point to make sure that we are catastrophizing all of the issues, to make sure everything is settled correctly. Because at the first round they paid for a leasing area. This is the second round of the sugarcane area. So to develop here, because they cut the first time, this is the second time, and to make sure that it's 15 to 18 months for it to be harvested, and they had to pay for the second time. Imagine, they have never paid up to date, and they are about to harvest. So I've just come here because I told them that you're gonna be looking for me, because everything I always do, making sure that I'm gonna be showing them the real contemplement of who I am and how the things are gonna be coming out. This is the verdict point where you can ever see the Condad is ever attacking into this kind of the hooligans. They are ever coming to Ginto and talking about I want to get Ginto arrested or shot or deleted, because they know that I am the subsequent person who is not making their things to go forward. This kind of a zone, it's more than 2.5 hectares of land. They have just planted much of their own sugarcane plantation, and they're just thinking about people are crazy outside here. So this is one of the measures that you ever see much of the grudges coming out. Much of the people always talk about, oh Gintu, why are you talking about this kind of the people, this one, this one, this way? It's because of the crackatoos of their own habits, which is a very stupidical and nonsensical at the same time, because they think about they're gonna be controlling everybody. Whenever they come to you and face you and talk about I want you to sell me this kind of the land, whenever you say that I'm not selling, or you give them a higher price, because whenever they came at the first time, my father told them I want it was like a 50,000 US dollars, and they could not even provide, because they talk about they're millionaires. Why couldn't they provide 50,000 US dollars? They could not even achieve to make it happen. So they talked about, oh, let us lease, or they think about whenever they're going to be leasing now, it's going to be so, oh, now you can just take it. Nobody is interested with such kind of a thing. Nobody interested with that kind of the money. Right today they have just called me so as I can just solidarize, because I told them if you cannot pay much of the money we are just accepting for you to have this kind of the second time sugarcane here, you will never harvest them. And I'm just stick to the point because even the rates have already been written. There's no harvesting of this sugar. Let it stay here for the whole time, because they're thinking about everything is osmisquously. They think about, oh, they're gonna be doing this, they're gonna be doing that one, because they have never paid the one to harvest sugar. It's about to be harvested, and we are just there to stick onto this kind of the position, and everything is coming to the point. So today I'm just here and waiting for 2-3 talks, because I always say about sometimes don't think a person is smaller. You will never know the impact of that kind of a person at the age, or don't talk about the age is small, but sometimes you will need that kind of a person, whatever the age he is or she is, sometimes you'll need their attention. So today I'm just here to make sure that we are solidarizing, so they can pay for this kind of the sugar, so it can just harvested, because they are a little bit getting to the maturity for them to be harvested, and they always do something called brown brown sugar here. And it's sometimes it's illegally whenever they just formulate such kind of the brown sugar. But somehow you understand how the Nyabohanse is. You can just talk about some case, and everything gonna be just continuing from this kind of the position. So this kind of an zone, it has been getting to much of the people, and they're just getting me that, oh, I'm the one who is blocking much of the plots not to be sold, because even my father looked for it. Even whenever my father was buying much of the plots, he told me that again, to make sure that whenever you get a little bit money, let us get them to where it's so sufficient. I have another area, talk about another plot at talk about Master KG's, and it's one of the fantastic plots that are entitled to look at the compound. And talk about Master KG ever evolved and talked about, oh, Gintu, can I talk to your father? Can I talk to you so they can just sell me this kind of the land I create, or I've constructed a A-shaped Airbnb, and people will just look at my compound, because that kind of a plot, either you whether you put which kind of a perimeter wall, whether you put it how long, because it's on the upper side. So everybody will just look until your interior compound. So it's a plot that is measuring inside the Master KG's compound. So they're just talking about, oh, Gintu, why can't you sell? That is the main point that you saw Gintu. They are talking about Gintu is disrespectful, Gintu is disgracing, Gintu is doing this, Gintu is that one, because I refused to sell the land. They called my father, and even the Condad was available. And they called my father, talk about how we want you to tell us where, talk about the boundary is, and how the things are going to be getting, oh, this and that, this, east, west, and south. The fact is, nobody is interested of selling the land. The way they talk about they're going to be constructing Airbnb, I was the one who had that kind of an idea. And I told him that day that, you know, that those kind of a very fantastic spot. We can just build an A-shaped Airbnb, and people can just talk about, oh, we are living very close to this kind of a zone. You understand right now the plot here, it has appreciated in a way that you never imagine. Even this kind of a area, the plot is more than even town. And for you to purchase a plot in this kind of a zone, you should have meters, talk about millions of money for you to buy this kind of a land. But they want to buy them in a cheaper price. They want to talk about, so you understand that if I could talk about, yeah, this way and this way, I told you that you will never get a good point or a good view at the villa without knowing that, him not knowing that you have something he is interested in. So I was done in a way that everything Gintu was performing, everything. And they were just luring me so they can just accommodate me that, oh, Gintu, you understand now, you know, I've been giving you much of the work, I've grown your YouTube channel, oh, I'm leaving you to shoot much of the videos. So he came there and talked about now, you know, that's kind of a zone. It's a very small zone, but can you sell it to me? Go talk to your father, go talk to your brothers, Gintu, please, and tell them to sell for me. I'll give them the money they want. I talked about give some whose money, because you are talking about why couldn't you buy it as early as possible. And right now, even at the village here, talk about this kind of the village, there's a problem, because the last person who bought, Master KG bought a land from one person who has died already today, and we are talking that as a fact. Today we have one man who has died unto the village here, but he has died far away, because when Master KG bought the land, it's just beside my plot at the upper zone, and bought it and talked about that kind of a plot gonna be going to one of the subscribers. You understand that kind of a point that he came out and talked about this kind of the plot gonna be going to a subscriber, and I've bought for a subscriber. We're gonna be planting here some of the fruits. They had even started planting mangoes. They started planting avocados there. There are some of the blue palm there. Talk about black palm there, and such kind of the talk about apiculture. So right today is the one who bought the whole plot of there, and now the person who bought who sold him that kind of the plot has died. So what is getting to this kind of the point? So they don't have anywhere to take this kind of a carcass and store it. Talk about rest in peace and just bury the guy. There's no plot right now, and much of the people are talking about, oh, we are buying lands, very fantastic. Sometimes there's a very big difficult. Whenever you are buying a land from somebody and you are buying the last plot of somebody, that is a cracker too of the moment. Whenever this kind of the person either talk about by God's grace or by God's imaginations, this kind of the person dies, you are the person to cut a small piece of land and this kind of the person will be buried. Right now, they are now the family and the person who bought that kind of land, talk about Master KG, they are now Hovela is the Hovela. Right now, there's Krakatoos in the village because much of the people are talking about now he's the one to remove the space for this kind of the person to be buried. So he's now thinking about now this kind of the person should not be buried there. He will just buy or he will just lure the brother to give him a small piece and give him money so they can just bury this kind of person there. And the fact is, whenever the lands are bought in this kind of the village, right now this kind of the village is a very big zone and a flat zone with scarce homesteads. And it's very big, large areas and lands are just developed here. You can even see that much of the fields here, much of the maize fields here, bigger plots. And I can just tell you that this is what is bringing much of the Krakatoo. And that's where this kind of the family, they want to hinder much of the people's emotion and think about they're going to be getting everything from this kind of the position and take them where not necessary. Guys, the good fact about today is I'm just here to make sure that I'm checking on everything, how everything is just running to this kind of the spot because we have much of the things that are making us not to go hand in hand with how the things are always moving. So this kind of the sugar plantation here, it's a very big land and it has from the far point of, you can just see from the far point of the forests until this lower area, which is making them to feel like, oh, it belongs to them. And this is how the thing's gonna be getting. The one they want to buy with the force. They think about everything is just forced here. So this is where you can just see this kind of the tree here. This where we have, even you can just see from this kind of the sugar to this kind of the sugar plantation, we have our long side here. This is where we call about the boundary that is bounding as so as you can just have, this is the Condad zone and this is our zone. So it's thinking that because they bought this kind of the side, they want to talk about this kind of the zone, they want to take it all of it until the far end. But the real point of the time is we are not interested with that one. So we want to solidize today and talk about how are they going to pay this kind of the money and how we're going to be getting everything to the brim point, because everything has its own time and gauge. So I'm just heading to the fish farm there so I can just check on what's really happening there, because guys, yesterday I came here so I can just shoot much of the videos, but I found whenever I reached at home, I found that there's nothing, is just reading onto the memory card. So I never posted any video yesterday because of some miscellaneous condition about talk about this kind of the memory card whenever we are just using the memory card here. So everything is just getting to the brim point here and things are getting to the Krakatoo. I have Mr. Sigano is here and making sure that he's spraying much of the, is it called Roundup, man? Roundup. Governor? No. So what is this, man? So what are you doing here?
I'm just spraying the, the weeds.
Oh, you're spraying the weeds here. Yeah. So, you will not weed, or this is the way forward. Is it a machine one?
Yeah, this is an electric pump.
Yeah, electric knapsack sprayer. Yeah, so it is on? Let me check it.
On like this.
Oh.
You see?
Move it down there, you see. So where do you switch? Oh. Now again you are spraying here.
No problem.
No problem?
Yeah.
So so you are spraying to make sure that no weeds,
yeah,
to cut out the weeds.
Yeah.
So how is everything, man?
Everything is ongoing well.
Yeah.
I can see you have also came here.
I have arrived today and I want to make sure that I'm checking, because I was told that much of my fish are being stored in here, and I want to check what's really happening to the field there and the intruders and whoever is just penetrating to that kind of the zone, so they can just make sure that everything is pinpointed where possible.
Okay.
Exactly. So you can introduce yourself as I just go to the brim point here.
Yeah, exactly, guys. Here it's _Sigano again.
Yeah.
Hope much of you guys will know because you have subscribed to my channel.
Exactly.
And also, if you have been watching me without subscribing,
yeah,
kindly you can press the subscription button.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, if the name it's hard to find, it's _Sigano.
Exactly.
SIGANO.
Yeah, man.
And remember, it does not have an apostrophe.
Exactly.
It's just ITS.
Exactly.
Then
fantastic.
_Sigano.
No. I want to greet me again, man.
Yeah.
Everything is possible, eh?
Yeah.
Exactly. Continue with the work, man.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna be coming back here.
Wow.
So guys, this is the movement. So he's here to make sure there's a plot here to make sure that everything is so fantastic. We have so big plots here to make sure that even these ones here, you can just check the sugarcane plantation. This is what is bringing much of the cracker too, because they understand that, oh, now Ginto gonna be controlling everything, gonna be controlling east, west, and south. So they think about they're gonna be taking everything here. So I can just remember there's a time that this kind of the plot was being sold. It's one of the plot of talk about Sammy the electrician, whoever was doing the electrical engineering into the villa during that time, and he had this kind of a beautiful plot here, and he was about to sell, and much of the people talked about, oh, Gitiriba, can you take this kind of the land, is so good. They talked about, no, I cannot pick it. Now one person from the UK who is a Kenyan took it and is just making sure that he's planting very good maize here to make sure that it's a very good maize field here, and everything is just continuing very fantastic here. So I'm just approaching to my fish ponds here so I can just check what's really happening to this kind of the regime and making sure that everything is so fantastic here. I already the cows they are here, guys. Very early in the morning to Comaveras. Panda. Exactly. So here we are, guys, and it's a very, very close area, which I'm telling you that you can just see this kind of the compound here, and you can just relate to know this is Master KG's plot here, and making sure that that's where much of the problems are just evolving from. And to the real fact of the time, that is where things are getting so krakatooing. Much of the people have never seen this kind of the zone here. It's a very characteristic zone and very well enabled. So I'm going to be making sure that I'm going to be telling you 2-3 things here so I can just share and understand the real statement and the real vibe of today, to make sure that we can understand each other and understand that this area, how does it develop and what's really happening to this kind of a zone, and how the things are just moving on and on. So to the real fact here, let's gauge and know where and how the things are just moving from this kind of the fantastic area right now. So guys, too much of the people who have never checked this kind of the zone, here we go. I have 3 big fish ponds here that are more than 300 meters squared, and talk about in terms of the volume and in terms of the area coverage. And I have the 3 in number, and this is the big one there, and followed by this one here. I have the far end at the far most end there, to make sure that they are making it into 3. Right now I've already stocked much of the fish here, and everything is just getting very fantastic to the growing rate of the fish, and they have been maintained, but we are having some 2-3 miscellaneous challenges that are affecting us still up to date, because of the area it's not muchly enclosed, so we have much of the intruders, and talk about much of the things are talk about the thieving and everything. So guys, what I will ever tell much of the people is this is where much of the things also are getting very krakatooing. What do I mean about krakatooing here? This kind of the fish ponds here, it was in 2023 October, and I talked about I want to come here and harvest much of the fish that I had onto this kind of the fish ponds here. Both of them, they were so stocked with much of the fish with different timeline. Talk about the schedule, and the timeline was differently. Talking about this was stocked first, and this one here is the biggest one, and it was constructed via the government, and it was in 2017, and you can just relate from that kind of the period of time. And I was in Form 3 when it was being constructed here. The second one, after talking about the profit, it got the second one, and the third one in 2021 when the Master KG was talking about you're gonna be constructing his own villa. While I was constructing this, or talk about when I was excavating this kind of the fish pond, it was the same time Master KG was making sure that he is building his own villa there. So I can just relate that this kind of the fish pond is equally in terms of the years it assembles, and it's equal years with the villa where it is. So this is where now the things started getting crooked. And when I was harvesting much of the fish from here, I talked about because I have to talk about the market demand of the fish, because you cannot harvest the fish here while you don't have the ready market for you to sell this kind of the fish. They will just rot onto your house, and it will be now for home consumption. What are you doing for the business if they were made for the business? it will be krakatooing of the way. So I decided that what I will have to do is to make sure that I'm moving from this kind of the position, and I'm getting to the people who will ever buy much of the fish when they are just ready into doing that kind of the time. So to the real fact that before I could harvest, I brought one person called Maja KE, and I brought him here, and we were having Mwita Junior during his time. He was calling himself Mwita Junior. Then when I came here, we talked about, I showed them how to fish, and I can just remember Maja KE wrote in his own headline, talk about the thumbnail and also the title. It was written, a 23-year boy who is a millionaire in the field of making sure that everything is just coming out. And the views, he got much of the views, and much of the people told me that, oh, Gintu, you have seen Maja has just talked about you. Why can't you start a YouTube channel? Oh, Maja should pay you. I talked about, no. He just asked me, Gintu, can we have a small video with you? And I'm not a bad person of talking about jealousy. I ever got much of the people and getting the content of them when I will have even not introduced myself into the YouTube platform. So I decided that I came here and I showed much of the people. Then talk about Master KG, Mayuguno, they watch those kind of the videos. And whenever they saw me, there's a day I came to the villa there so I could just see how the work was continuing. Then a little bit I spotted with one of the people, talk about Mawera. Mawera had saw me in the video of Maja and talked about, are you the one that I saw in Maja's video? Oh, those fish ponds, they're there. So much of the people, they're working there. It's just 15 meters from here to get into the, I'll talk about the compound of the villa. Then he talked about, oh, you are the one who is onto that kind of the other section. I said, I'm the one, yeah. So they talked about, yeah, how is the fish, how is everything? So I had to organize a day that I could just fish, and I had got the market demand, talk about the ready market was available. So I decided to come and talk about, hey, I came and I got much of the people still in the construction of the, talking about the perimeter wall alongside the river. Then I just talked to them, and I just talked to them east, west, and south, and they came to the box and talked about, I'm harvesting much of the fish, come and get the fish. So much of the people came during that time because they were just talking about, oh, the fish, everybody was just wondering, oh, the fish belongs to you, because of, talk about, much of the people think about bigger assets like the fish ponds here, and talk about the bigger things that are imaginative. People cannot imagine that they belongs to you. They think about it belongs to the retired people, talk about the aged people in the society. They never imagined that they were belonging to me, and I was the one to harvest much of the fish from here. So I invited much of the, and even I got Master KG himself, and I told him that I want to harvest much of the fish there. Could you come and buy, and you can just, you have much of the guests here. And I got so many boys sitting alongside the tree. Talk about there's a very talk about a very known tree alongside the gate there, that when visitors come, that's where the bench is, and they are lined there like they want a job. They are lined like interview, and they need much of the shout out, and much of them they have chicken, much of them they have goats, and much of them they have shopping, so as they can just take them to the villa. And during that time, whenever I went there, I was told that, yeah, I have so many guests here, so many people that were just coming, because it was organizing so they can just get to the 18th of 11th 2023, when the party could just commence there. So I just talked to them and nicely, and he just and they called Mayuguno. I can just remember Master KG calling Mayuguno. Hey Mayuguno, hey bossy. You can understand that's kind of a time whenever Mayuguno was ever talking about, yes boss, yes boss. But boss was too much. The boss was too much. And he talked to him and talked about, oh, now there's a person who is talking about, you're gonna be having some fish and they're gonna be selling to you. During that time, I can just remember Maja KE and Mayuguno, they were something unique, and they were performing magic during that time. And also not forgetting Nasto was part of the program. And whenever we called Mayuguno and talked about, yeah, I saw that boy in that kind of the video of Maja, so I am even looking for him so they can just shoot a video, because when Maja uploaded that video, it went viral. So much of the YouTubers, they needed Gintu so they can just shoot much of the videos, because even when they saw me, they were talking about, yeah bro, you are talking a fluent English, so I want to do a video with you, can you go there and fish? Can I, how much for me to fish? I talked about, I've not yet entangled for that one, so keep it locked. So during that time now, Mayuguno was called and talked about, boss, I'm coming right now. And whenever things came, now I came back here, and I came with so many people were just working there. Farmer Isa, Mayuguno, talk about, no, Mayuguno was no longer available during that time. It was Farmer Isa, who is this boy? Called Elia, talk about Mawera. There were so many, Eve Ishauna, if you can just remember, there's a lady called Eve Ishauna. There was Ken Gore, there was Royal Kim, they were there, and they came to this kind of the site so they can just see how the fish is done, and they were shooting much of the videos. Then a little bit, whenever we were having the chasement, this kind of the compound was so full. It was in 2020, I'm telling you, that's a fact. And a little bit, the Master KG arrived with his own GoPro, and the GoPro was just handling, you understand, the GoPro, this, talk about this, how it is. So a yellow one, and it's just inserting it this way, and it's just handling it this way, and he's talking behind, and he's shooting. And it was the time that he was even shooting me for him to get money. But sometimes whenever it's just some people are just doing their own things and talk about, this is how it is. They're talking about you should be blocked. You are using their name. You are using I don't know what. But we were being used during that time. And that is the real fact. And how did it go, and how did it go until to this kind of the brim point? Whenever they came, I was fishing here using a net, and I was just enclosing because water was full. For you to harvest this kind of the fish ponds here, it's a small reason that you can just put it together. You can never harvest the fish while the water is full, but it needs a very good knowledge for you to harvest here when the water is full at the fish pond, because the fish pond, the depth of the fish pond is approximately 1.2 to 1.6 meters long. So whenever you can just go there, if you are less than 1.5 meters, you can just sink and you can never be garden here. So it's a little bit deeper whenever it's in that kind of the condition the way it is right now. Whenever you insert yourself here, from the edges here, it's shorter because of the water, because it's coming from here. But the far end, where the topography is slanting, it's very deeper. That's the real fact. So what did it happen? So whenever we are just making some noises here, and Master KG arrived with the GoPro and was shooting a video and talking about, this is the village way of harvesting much of look at how they are just harvesting, guys. This kind of the man is a small boy but has much of the knowledge in terms of this kind of the industry. And I can just remember during the time he was shooting the video, I was in this corner, and he told me that, and you are speaking a very good English, you know how to speak. I was in this kind of the corner. That's the fact. And he was at that kind of far end where you can just see the plantain is. Then I talked about, I understand, and he talked about, you know the English, why can't you start a YouTube channel? I talked about it has its own time and it's gonna be coming. So whenever he turned around, he just passed through this kind of the spot and went to that kind of an area, and he called me and told me that how many fish do you stock here? He bought much of the fish, and he promised me that I'm gonna be giving you a job. And this kind of the job he was talking about is, he talked to me about, I don't want a big pond like this one here, because I have a smaller zone at my space there. So I want you to construct a very narrow fish pond that will be so fantastic for me to store much of the fish and to be like you. I want to be a farmer like you. You'll be teaching me on how, and I like your tactic and I like your knowledge about the fish farm. I talked about, thank you very much, and I will do as much as you propose, so as I can just make you happy the way you think and the way you see me progressing with my own things. Then he bought much of the fish. He bought 16 fish, which were costly 1,600 shillings. He gave me 2,000, and he told me that keep the change. And I've come here, I could not take the change. I talked about I don't have the change, so I'll bring you the change. Talk about the balance. He talked about, no, don't, that's yours, and I will just promote you with that one, and keep putting much of the fish. I talked about that's like a tip of the business. I talked about very fantastic. So when I came out of here, I talked about, let me now go and start the construction there. So this is where much of the things came. I never went to anybody to talk about this how. I don't have much of the grudge talking about, oh, I have a grudge with somebody, I have a grudge. Because when you talk about I have a grudge, I can decide to take Sigano there because it's just spraying much of the chemical, and I can decide to talk about spray it alongside this kind of the fish ponds here. Because yesterday but one, I got one of the workers who is just at the villa there. I got him cutting much of the grass at the far end, and I talked about, hey bro, you can just do it, because if I have the grass and I don't feed on the grass, so what am I doing with the grass? Is ever doing much of the cleaners here? So I could just spray much of the chemical and they come and cut, it will be chaotic. So to the real fact is, I don't have such kind of obsmissias. Talk about the jealousy, the ego of talking about, oh, I'm just the way I am. So the fact is that this is where the krakatu is coming from. So when a person is coming to tell you that, oh, this kind of the person is this way, this kind of the person is this way, and even inciting much of the people from the village to come and interfere with the fish ponds here, it's becoming like you are now becoming a stupid person at the same time, because you are thinking about now Gintu is benefiting. Because I have just refused to sell much of the lands, I've refused not to engage with you about selling much of the land or sell you much of the lands. How do you want to get land and me I want land? So how do you want us to help each other? So it will never come to the conscience of the time. So I decided to talk about how is it coming. Even the proposal that they came out talking about Gintu has stolen the fish. How can I steal you the fish? Because I had stocked here more than 3,000 fish, because each and every pond is stocked with 1,000 fish at each kind of the pond. So, and the Farah pond was the one that I have not harvested. And when he came to buy much of the fish, I can tell you this kind of the story. When I harvested this kind of the fish pond and I finished, so I had to come to the second fish pond, which was this one, and it was the fish pond that talk about I constructed in 2020-2021. Construction was commencement there around December, talk about November, December to January there of 2020 to 2021. Then whenever I harvested this one and I had finished, I had done what is called renovation, and I had moved everything, and I have used calcium oxide to treat all the pond and make sure that I'm opening water to insert and accumulate, then wash the pond, then release, then accumulate another water. So I had accumulated water, and it was greenish in nature and was greenish in color. Then I was harvesting this kind of the fish pond. When I harvested, it told me that, oh, even they came, much of the people came to see, because there were so many people working there, and much of the people came to check on how the harvest is and how the things were just ongoing. So to the real fact, I just talked about, yeah, I went there because he told me that whenever we could have the small fries, talk about the fries and the fingerlings, come and sell me the fingerlings, because I want to develop a pond after I just did this one. So I talked about I have to make sure that I'm clearing this kind of the 2 ponds before I come to construct your pond. So I was cleaning this one here. Then I went and talked about I have the fingerlings that you need. So whenever we came with him here and was shooting a video and told me that, yeah, no, don't release those kind of the small. I talked about these are just small babies and they have nothing to do. So the good fact is he told me that, no, don't release them. Take them and put the basin. I was having a black, it was a red basin, I think about. It was like a yellow basin. And I took that kind of a yellow basin and I withdrawn much of the small fingerings that they were here. And this kind of the pond we had opened using this kind of an entry pond here, because we have an outlet that we always have onto this kind of the point. So I had talked about, so how do you want it to be? Talked about, no, I'm sending Mawera, I'm sending some person to come with a basin so they can just collect this kind of the fingerlings. Then I talked about, yeah, tell him to hurry. Then he rushed back to the villa, and a little bit like 2 minutes, he had sent Mawera. Mawera came with the basin to withdraw much of the fingerlings from this kind of the pond. And when he went to the villa, they just dug the same day, they dug a hole. The same day he came and collected the fingerlings, he went and just spotted them there and talked about, installed them at that kind of the, talk about very flabbergastic environment, talk about the environment which was not, it was pathetic environment for the fish, for them to be, at least to be gotten there. So they wanted to have a stock. Whenever they're going to be building a very big fish pond, they could use this kind of the small fingerlings to store them there. So when they just went, they never had any clue. They were dwarf in terms of the fish farming. Talk about the dwarfism of fish farming. If you don't understand something, just console. And whenever they went with them, I talked about, okay, go and stock them the way you want. So the following day, Master KG himself came back to my pond here. I was doing the renovation and finishing the renovation of this kind of the field, and told me that, oh, those kind of the fingerlings you gave me, they have died, all of them. So what do? I talked about how did they die, and why did you place them? Did you place them onto the same basin, or you place them where there's a clean water and natural water? Talked about, yeah, I dug a hole and I put them there. I talked about, can we go and see? Yeah, and we went there, and I found that they dug the same hole at the same day and plastered them the fingerlings inside where the water is dirty, and there's no talk about there's no, because whenever the water is dirty, the oxygen concentration is low. You have to understand those ones, and there's no direct sunlight. It was in a very cold area and a very wet area that even sunlight cannot even reach. Talk about down the tree, talk about around the shade of the tree. So it was nothing to happen there. And you understand the natural trees that always develop here, they have so much leaves and branches. So whenever that kind of a zone, it's very cool. So the fish can never survive in such kind of a condition, because even the water that they had dug is a very small pond, that even the water that was included inside there, it was not having an outlet or an inlet that will just facilitate the air concentration or the oxygen concentration in that kind of the pond. So how do you want the fish to survive? And they were not having such kind of the knowledge. So I told them that they will not survive in such kind of a condition. And Mawera was too much in terms of talking about, no, you know, you gave us bad fish, they were about to die. So he never wanted him to be found that he's guilty, that he never knew how to store the fish or install the fish in a way comfortable zone. I talked about, there's not such kind of the nonsensical things that can never even give me much of the conditions here. So I talked about, let me go forward. Then I talked about, okay, I'll come and construct your pond and I'll show you. Then the Farah fish pond there, it was having much of the fish still, because I had harvested this one and renovated, had fish from this one and renovated. So it was the third one, but we were having some of the small fish, not yet good for the harvest. Then during that time now, we had much of the people now coming to the villa because of the party has now roaming in, and had already started constructing at the villa there a fish pond called the Flying Beam Fish Pond, which was my idea. I was the engineer. Even the engineer who was there to build even that kind of a story building could not develop such kind of a fish pond, because he was using my own mind. And he told Master KG himself, I'm a dwarf in terms of fish farming. I understand nothing. So I had to make sure that I'm the one making everything properly. So what followed? Much of the people, whenever they came, talk about much of the Wazungus, they now started engaging inside. They came and fished much of the fish from here. Talk about from Mr. Stefan. Talk about Stefan. Talk about Christmas list, Mama Gift, and so many people. They came here and they were talking about, yeah, this is how the things will be done. And we fished from here. We did much of the videos here with much of the Ugandans here, much of the Kenyans here. Talk about, I can just remember much of the ladies that were coming here. And during the party time, it was so noisy there. So much of the people were coming to this kind of a calm zone, so they can just come and stay and focus. I was having much of the seats down there, and I was having much of the seats there. And that kind of avocado tree, it was very large, and it was possessing much of the shade, much of the people to engage. So much of the people, they were coming to this section. And even much of the people told me that, oh, into this kind of an area, are you the guard there? Because they thought about it going to be belonging to Master KG's zone. So I never talked about it's mine or don't know what, engage myself. I'm not in terms of that one of talking about, oh, I want to show myself that, oh, I have such kind of the things. So they were coming, you know, to knowing that's my zone. And whenever I was just passing, they thought about it. Even sometimes Steve J1 called me that, hey, soldier, come I tell you. And I was about, hey, soldier, am I the soldier here? And I'm at my own plot. That's no problem. I always come. So the fact is, now I had to stock the fish pond there. So I had to decide that I'm just taking much of the fish pond, my fish from that kind of the fish pond of the Farah zone, and 300 of them. I had taken 300 to one of the fantastic hotel called Joffa. Then the other 300, and I was being shot a video using a boy called AZ, was shooting me. Even I can just remember the comment section that was there. Somebody talked about you had a very fantastic cameraman, and I like the possession of the cameraman who was just shooting your video. I took the fish from here with a black basin, and I went with them to the villa there. And what did happen? So this is where the things are just happening. Somebody should not come out and talk about because of Gintu has just denied me a plot. So what we are coming out is to allegate and insinuate much of the things and put much of the things that are not even katabooming to much of the people's mind and talk about Gintu is bad. But the real fact of the time is that I took my time and supported you to make sure that you are just moving. He ever used me, and we used each other, so you can just make sure that everything is performing. And to the real fact is, I have heard much of the people talking about Gintu. They're going to be having an invite because they are now inviting much of the people who are doing much of the better works there. Talk about they have started with the strongman. They are talking about they're going to be calling Minihawi because there's no PA right now because everybody has disbursed and everybody is looking for his own way for him to cater for himself or herself. The fact is I'm not interested with this kind of the cost pumps of the day because we have to get forward and engage ourselves and know that this is the movement that I want to do. At the same time, this is the movement. So to the real fact, after this kind of the story, I think you have just gotten that there's a person who came to look for me, not me looking for them. So at the end, They had to make sure that they're just chasing him because of the influence. Talk about an influence. Because much of the people they were coming there talking about, you can understand even the Condad came and talked about everybody should get out. But whenever he came and found me at the fish pond, told me that, you are the best person I've ever seen in this kind of the village. You are doing very meticulous things and very cardiophagistical and very fantastic things here. I talked about thank you very much for your honor and dignity, for you recognizing my presence at here. And much of now the Conmam started knowing that, why is Gintu getting an influence and getting much of the views than them? They started now formulating a strategy of making sure they're going to be kicking Gintu out. He started talking about Gintu, Tata, I like whatever you're doing. I want you now to do something for me. I want you, because you will never be here for long, so I want you to tell me how we're going to be feeding much of the fish. Sometimes you don't be stupid at the same time. So to the real fact is much of the people are formulating, and I'm telling you this as a fact. Nobody has a grudge with anyone. The fact is much of the people who are giving much of the jealousy to us, it's because of how they see the development. They never... Hey, hello. Hey. Nyamwini. Nyamwini. Eh. Ayan ko hetarade ho. Ay, sawa. Aya. Unatakaje? So guys, I was having a little bit of a call here from my mom a little bit to make sure that I'm fixing much of the talk about. I have still the top masons there at the G Castle, so I have to make sure that I'm sorting them with lunch, and it's already at 10, and I'm going to be sorting everything that's going to be coming out. So to the real fantastic moment I want to be talking about is today I've just come here because I was being told that this kind of the zone, it has been a thief zone, and much of the people are stealing from this kind of the zone because it's not fenced. And what I can just talk about is we are having much of the boys right now because of the schools. Whenever you have the primary school, talk about the public primary schools here, much of the students, they go and come back home. So sometimes they might have CBC and they want to come, and they thought about the CBC about to come and fish and do something. So they want to come and fish from here using their own curriculum vitae. So the good fact is this kind of the fish pond, guys, the way you can just see them, it's a public, and it's something that we're going to be calling a public area. It's have been registered to the public. Talk about the fish. How can we call them? It's just a fishing. How can we call it? I'm a member to the fish family. Talk about the fisheries family in terms of Kenya. Talking about I'm part of the program to make sure that the fish farm is maintained here. And I'm the only person who am having the fish ponds and this kind of the community. Talk about 20 to 30 kilometers. Talk about 10 to 20 kilometers along the diameter. There's no one has this kind of the strategy of this kind of the fish farm here. And I'm the one performing the magic. So much of the people are having jealousy. Maybe they want to take over the game from Gintu and talk about, oh, this is the fantastic mode. So when I can just be moving from one position to another, you can even check how the fish ponds look like. They are just strategically located, and the water is full. So much of the people, they talk about, oh, this kind of the zone, how does it have much of the water here? And how everything is. I saw much of the people commenting from Fundi Duke's channel talking about much of the cows they're here. So guys, I don't refuse much of the cows not to be here, but the fact is let them not be tied. If they're just grazing while they are just this way, it's going to be so fantastic, because they're going to be rotating all around, but not whenever you tie them somewhere, they're going to be having something called that they're going to be turning at that kind of an area and turning. But if they're just not tied that way, they're going to be just moving all around. It doesn't have any affection, because I have so many grasses here, because it's a green zone. I don't have that kind of a mode to talk about, oh, I don't want this and this, but I'm going to be fencing this kind of the land very fantastic and very soon, to make sure that I'm just enclosing everywhere any kind of of the inlet is coming in, talk about intruding, incoming, and such kind of the issues are going to be sealing them completely. So here we go, guys. I've just heard that this kind of the people that are coming to this kind of the site, so I can just have much of the talk, and I always give them this kind of the lecture. I know much of the people that are just listening, maybe they're just from the sections here, talk about the Condad is maybe listening to how I'm just talking about, but I always say it as a fact, whether they are there or not, so they can just emphasize and know that this is the real for us to go forward and not to go forward. But I'm not intimidated because of talking about we have not sold as a land and now you want to buy. So the land is now becoming a catastrophic thing in this kind of the village and the community. I'm coming like 2 kilometers from my home to this kind of the zone, and when I reach here I have to make sure that I'm just coming here well focused and so determined to make sure that I'm just coming to check on my assets and how everything is just running. Much of the people are just new onto the channel. Thank you much for you watching this kind of the video, because much of the people have never knew that Gintu is having much of the bigger fish ponds here, a bigger project, bigger cost pump project that is ready rendering to this kind of the site and is making it more awesome. And this is where much of the problem is evolving from, because Gintu is a fish pond guy and I can just rear much of the fish, and much of the people want now to catalog and talk about no, Gintu is this way, Gintu is that way, because they don't want much of the people to move, and themselves, they are the people who came and talked about Gintu, you can do it. So there's no one who, if you have already talked about Gintu, you can do it, start it, and now you talk about Gintu, you cannot do it, you have to stop it. You can never do it. God has every kind of the possibility to make sure that we are just moving. So what I can just tell much of the people is even I have a forest, a small forest that was planted with Jamaican anko, because whenever he came, I was the biggest trustee. Then when it just turned against doing the stupid things at the village that I could not even compensate. So to the real fact, I have a very good forest here that Jamaican uncle planted here. And I was having, even I have a legacy here, because much of the trees talk about this kind of the trees here. And yesterday we had a very big floods here. You can even see how the zone is looking like. And this kind of the river, there's a time I was cleaning it, and it was highly polluted with talk about the master KG from the villa, and it was so dirty and I had to maintain it. I was cleaning, and this is where even I was telling much of the people that I hired, even the person who is just making some stupid reactions in Nyaboanse and just talking about Gintu and putting Mayani behind the bars. I even gave them the job, and I was paying them here, and I was paying much of the people so they can just do the cleaners. Right now it's now polluted again. You can even see much of the rubbish from that far end and how it's just looking. So this kind of the trees here, we planted them with Jamaican anko. We have eucalyptus, and we have this kind of the bigger trees here that are developed here, and that was a small indication that had taken their possibility. And even if you go to this kind of their channels, much of the people are commenting that Gintu, you can just go and teach to much of the university about the fish farming, because let the next video come, it will be tackling about the fish farm, how do we develop, how we make it, how we go, and everything gonna be so fantastic. Because from the spawning time until the harvest time, until if you have any kind of the question, you can just post the next video, it's gonna be coming and entitled to tell you what is necessary in the fish platform and what are we going to do. Much of the people want to support Gintu, so I can just do a fencing here. You can support Gintu +2547 0049 0047. Or you can just talk about, we're going to be sending something small from the Western Union or the MoneyGram, and you can just make it happen. And this is the fantastic mode that we're going to be getting to your position and talking about this is the end. Next time, next point, next terminologies to come to you live, which is one-on-one. And I like much of the people watching. I salute for you, and hugs from me and much of the kids. And coming to you live, and we have much of we are talking about the beekeeping. I want to keep some bees here. I have had much of the bees that are here, and they are now chasing